It says the webinar has started. I guess it's just us. Hey, there we go. Welcome. Carl Erickson, you win a prize because you're the first one who has joined us. I'm gonna throw a little something in the chat there for everybody. No, I made that window go away. That's not good. So welcome to everyone. As you're joining, as we usually do, of course, please jump in the chat and let us know where you're joining from. And also let us know which Shandong you're enjoying. The three of us are all enjoying a little Etoile Brut on a Friday afternoon. So welcome to everybody.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Indeed.
We made it.
Isn't this what everyone does during their Friday at the office? I hope it is. Let's see. Do we have anybody who's hopped in the chat? Yes. Salt Lake City, Utah, Dallas, Texas. I was just in Dallas last week, so welcome to you, Jake. So far, Anne in Walnut Creek is enjoying Etoile Rosé. Cheers to you. We are, I see those numbers keep on climbing, so got more people coming in, and I want to say welcome to them as well. For those who just joined us, a repeat on that to hop in the chat and let us know where you're joining from, and let us know which Shandong you're enjoying. Clayton, California, Garden Spritz tea, excellent. Jill Chin, well done drinking the Spritz tea already. I think it looks like it's a pretty steady group of people that we have in, so maybe we should get going. Although now we got more places to look at. Yonkers, New York. I can't pronounce that. Perkimianville, PA. Wow. Is that even a real town name? Jan in Chicago's got Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. South Carolina, Long Beach. I think we're ready. Shouldn't we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start. All right. So officially, welcome to everyone. For the first time on the second anniversary of the Shandong Virtual Tasting Series, we've been doing these for 2 years now. This will be the first time that we're all in the same room.
It is.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yep.
So, of course, I'm Brian Fairley. I'm Shandong's brand education manager, the host of this little party, and I am literally surrounded by winemaking talent. To my right is Pauline Lote, our director of winemaking.
Hello, everyone.
And to my left is Laura Fontaine, our associate winemaker. And we are going to tell you all sorts of things about 3 different wines. So we're going to talk about the Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. We're going to talk about the Etoile Brut, which is what we're enjoying. And then we will talk about the brand new and much loved Garden Spritz tea. So we will encourage you, of course, to jump in the chat if you have questions, jump in the Q&A if you have questions, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you have. So a very, very official welcome to everyone. And of course, I always have to give a shout out to all of our Club Shandong members. A special welcome to all of you. I believe the Garden Spritz tea is club exclusive. So you either have to be in the club or you have to come here to the winery to get it. And that's a good thing. So what should we do? Should we start with a little bit of sort of what's going on here at the winery?
Absolutely.
I think so. So actually, let's talk first about what's going on in the vineyard, because it's growing season, it's springtime, lots of things are happening. So what are we working on in the vineyard? What's going on out there?
Yeah, so it's growing season. It's going pretty strongly at the moment. I was in the vineyard this morning in Yountville with our viticulturist. We actually spotted bloom, so it's quite early in the season. We also busy mowing the cover crops in the rows, so it looks very pretty at the moment. If you have a chance to stop by, we have flowers. And if you were here a couple of weeks ago, you could have spotted the sheep in the vineyard because we use sheep as well.
Yes, they do a little lawn mowing for us, and of course they leave behind a little bit of fertilizer as well.
Yeah, so maybe, as you know, we are sustainable farming, and one of the big things that we've done a few years ago was it's been a few years, it's stopping herbicide in our vineyard. So we are welcoming sheep through the winter so they can eat all of the grass. And then right now, because the shoots are growing, so we don't allow those sheep anymore, otherwise they would eat the vines and the shoots. So we now are mowing our cover crop or grass in the vineyard, but no herbicide has been a very good thing for us to do for the last few years.
Yes, always focused on sustainability, of course. And then what comes after this? So the grapevines are going to bloom, and then what?
Yeah, so they're going to bloom, and then you're gonna witness a berry set, which will decide the yield for the season. And we're just talking about this because we had a frost event in Yountville, which is unfortunate. So we lost a fair amount of potential yield. And Pauline was just commenting before that it's definitely climate change showing.
Yeah, so we had frosts, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is quite unusual for us because it did happen in Yountville, which is like the warmer climate that we typically get, or the warmest region we grow sparkling grapes. So it was 28 degrees during that night over like an extended time of like 2 to 3 hours. So it definitely did some damage to our crop. So that's obviously unfortunate. But we were super surprised because typically when we think about frost, we think about our coldest region, and we're expecting it more in Carneros as opposed to Yountville. The ranch in Yountville is smaller than Carneros, so somewhat it's a good thing. But anyway, we are never happy when we lose fruit, obviously.
Well, I work on the marketing side, so it's going to be the greatest vintage of all time, as far as I'm concerned. So far, so good. All right, so we talked vineyard, Pauline. Then let's talk about what's going on in the winery. What's everybody up to?
Yeah, so at the winery right now, it's the time of the year. So we've done blending in January. So blending is when we recreate each of those wines. We put it together in the cellar. That has been done since February, and now we're just like putting the wine in the bottle. Of course, we're making sparkling wine, so we call that tirage. So it's a champagne term, a French term. So tirage just means that we're putting the wine in the bottle. It's just not as simple because it's the start of our secondary fermentation in that bottle. So we take our wine, which is what was blended, so we call that the cuvée. So let's say we are tiraging Chandon Brut, for example. So we take cuvée Brut. We would add sugar, we would add yeast, and then we put the wine in the bottle. So we put a bidou and a crown cap on it. So we close the bottle. And then the sugar is going to convert alcohol and carbon dioxide. This time the carbon dioxide will be trapped in the bottle, hence the bubbles. So this is what we're doing at the moment. We're also monitoring closely the fermentation in those bottles, because it takes about 6 weeks to ferment in the bottle, as opposed to about 10 days in tank during harvest. So secondary fermentation, tirage is what keeps us busy at the moment. And other than that, we are always like disgorging the wine to make sure they are ready for you guys to enjoy.
Yes, and of course, a good reminder for everyone about the length of the process that's involved. We're drinking Etoile Brut that's based on 2014 harvest. So that means this wine was bottled in 2015.
That's correct.
So it takes a long time to get the finished product to you. I think sometimes people forget that. They just see a bottle on the shelf and go, hey, that probably didn't take very long to make.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any questions that are too exciting, other than Eleanor Forbes wants to know, how is little Nathan? How's your little baby boy?
Thank you, Eleanor. It's good to hear from you. So Nathan, for people that don't know him, is my second boy. Is almost 7 months old, and he's doing very well, super chubby cheeks. So then he gets to have like hundreds of kisses a day just because you want to bite into it. So both of them are doing super good. So thank you so much for asking.
Yes. Should we talk a little reserve Pinot Noir rosé?
Yeah.
That seems like a good transition to me.
You'll
notice
open it.
This is the bottle that is, of course, not open yet, because I always want to give people a reminder on how to properly open a sparkling wine bottle. I see this done all the time, and quite honestly, it's almost always done incorrectly. So of course, the first thing is you want the bottle cold. I think everybody knows how to do that and does a good job of that. Then you want to take the foil, you want to rip that off. I always like to make it look nice and clean. And then you can either put a towel over the top, or you can put your thumb over the top and simply make sure you have control over the cage at all times. Take that little loop, and you're going to twist it 6 half turns counterclockwise. Every single sparkling wine on earth will have 6 half turns counterclockwise. I always give it sort of a little wiggle so that it's released from the collar of the bottle. Then grab the bottom, hold on to the cork in the cage, and then simply twist the bottom of the bottle. Now, I like to make a nice little popping sound because I think it's festive and fun.
I agree.
So let's do that. Very easy.
Yay!
And now you have a bottle that is open safely, hasn't gone spraying all over the place. You haven't wasted any of it. So
and you get to pour it.
And now you get to pour it for the people who made it. So
and
pretty
hi,
cool.
Alex.
Yes.
Alex is there.
Alex is in here. Hi, Alex. Good to see you. So Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé, which I need to pour myself some. This is a wine that, of course, falls in the reserve tier for Chandon. The reserve tier originally for us was wines that were just longer aged versions of wines that we were already making. Of course, now the reserve tier is more than 3 years of aging with the yeast. So that's going to give you more complexity. It's going to give you more richness. But this is a wine that's very specifically focused on one particular vineyard that we have, which is Carneros. So if you actually look at the label, it's going to say Los Carneros. That means it's coming all from our estate vineyard. So When you're making this wine, I guess this is a question kind of for both of you. When you're making this wine, when you're making the reserve tier wines, what are you looking to do? What sort of stylistic things are you looking to do? And what are you showcasing through these wines?
Yeah, so for me, what we're showcasing in the reserve tier, it's really the varietal. So within that tier, we have a reserve Blanc de Blanc, a reserve Brut, and a reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. So the reserve Blanc de Blanc showcases Chardonnay. The reserve Brut is kind of the most traditional in a way because it's a blend of all three varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Meunier. And obviously the reserve Pinot Noir Rosé, we are showcasing Pinot Noir.
Yes.
So what we want to really have is that varietal. So the Pinot Noir, you know, in the blend brings you like those red flavors, those tone fruits, but really like red fruit, strawberry, cherry, raspberry. So this is what we want you to taste when you smell this one. So we want to make it as close as possible to like the vital characteristics of all of those variety. Like Brian said, this wine aged for 3 years. So we have the fruit flavors, but also with some nice layers of complexity and nice age character coming from those 3 years of aging. So I was telling you about tirage. We start the fermentation. Once the fermentation finishes, after those 6 weeks, the bottles are still laying on their side, and that's when the aging time or the maturation starts. And really 3 years give you that nice balance between those brioche, nutty notes, but also the fresh intensity of the fruit. So it's for me, it's this tier. It's always trying to find that perfect balance between this character, but also freshness, vibrancy coming from the vital character. And obviously in this case, Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is also bringing structure to the wine. So it's kind of like the body, the skeleton of the wine, if I can say that as well. So this is the rosé within the Chenin portfolio that has the most body, like the most, we say vineux in French, like the most winey character. All the other rosé we're making are majority made with Chardonnay, just to bring a little bit more freshness. In this one, we really want to have like a bold rosé style. And it's also like a wine that really has amazing food and wine pairing with this. So you can go like with some very serious food, serious like some meat. You don't be afraid to go the whole dinner with this wine.
Absolutely. And I think one of the best parts for me is that the reserve tier has that balance between fruitiness and complexity. Because when you look at the signature tier Chenin wines, all about brightness and fruitiness and freshness. And then you have the reserve tier has a little bit more complexity, but it's perfectly balanced. Then you get into the real complex styles, which of course we'll talk about with Etoile, but it kind of covers all bases.
Yeah.
So if you need something on the table that's going to cover a whole bunch of different dishes, if you have a bunch of different palettes at a party, that sort of thing, it's always going to cover pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
And I love the balance of this wine. I think if you looked around, if you just went here at the winery and asked a whole bunch of people, what's your favorite wine? There's a big percentage of employees here who would say Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé, because it's right in that sort of sweet spot, not in sweetness, but it's just a perfect wine for pretty much
preference.
everything.
And this one we're lucky to get 90 points with Wine Enthusiast. So this is a wine that also gets a nice recognition on top of our employee, which is always the first person you want to actually please.
Yes.
And the wine club members.
Yes,
Of course.
that's true. We do want to please the wine club members. I think for me, the thing that I love the most about this wine, though, is something you mentioned, Pauline, which is how versatile it is on the table. We do a whole bunch of different things. I grew up in Seattle, so salmon to me is one of the greatest things in the world, and it's a perfect pairing for that. You can do any kind of Creole cooking. You go down to New Orleans and pop a bottle open of this. You can pair it with pretty much anything that you'd find. It's just a very, very versatile wine. Actually, one of the greatest pairings, I think, is just a little kale salad with some fresh strawberries. Really, really nice with the Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. So, I know, right? That sounds pretty good.
So me, I would have said like tuna pokeball with this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, because it's got the savory notes.
Yeah.
All right. That's why
Then
she's the
now
winemaker.
Now I want to go to wine.
I know. I think we're all going to go out and Suzanne says fried chicken. I agree. Fried chicken and sparkling wine is a very underrated pairing. So,
but I think what I like the most about the wine, and I don't know if any of you have this glass in front of you, but it's really the intensity and the flavor. Like it's really rich, both on the nose and the palate. So it is bold, but yet it's very refreshing as well. We have a low dosage on this wine. What is it, Laura?
7.5.
Okay, 7.5. So 7.5, quite low, but that the perfect balance with a little bit of sweetness to balance the acidity. to make a very savory and vibrant wine.
Yes, I'm going to build on Suzanne's comment about fried chicken as well, because I think like Louisiana style hot chicken or Nashville style would be really, really good with this. Question from Gail that I see in the chat. What is your top selling sparkling wine? And aside from possibly price, why? I mean, the easy answer to that is the flagship Chandon Brut is the best selling wine that we make by a million miles. And I think for me, I'm open to the comments from the real experts, but for me, it's just that it's approachable for almost anybody. On the sparkling wine side of things, if you pour Chandon Brut for a giant party full of people who have tons of different experience levels and know nothing about sparkling wine and tons about sparkling wine, it's going to cover absolutely everybody. They all will like it.
And the Chandon Brut is a flagship, so it's also the fact that you can really find it pretty much everywhere in the United States. So obviously that helps. So I would say this is the biggest seller. However, at the winery, I think the Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé might be one of the close top.
Yeah, definitely pretty high up there. Although I heard the Garden Spritz tea is a very hot seller.
Yeah, we just
lately as
heard
well.
that. So
Everybody's excited about that. So I think that covers it for Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. I don't see any other questions relevant to that. Of course, if you have comments or you have other questions, please don't be shy. Hop in the chat and let us know what you think of the wines. Or if you have comments on the things that we're saying, please let us know. If there are not other questions, though, we will go to Etoile Brut, which is what all of us started with. So I guess we can go back to that. Etoile is a fascinating wine to me, mostly because of its history. I think it's a very interesting wine, and the reason that we made this wine originally just make the very best expression of California sparkling wine possible. So the original bottling of Etoile Brut was made way back in 1991, and that wine was truly just to have spare no expense, no limitations, make the best bottle of California bubbles you possibly can. And I think we have continued to do that and continue to do a very good job with it.
So in the 90s, I don't know if some of you know that, but our first winemaker was Donine Dyer, a female as well. So obviously Laura and I are pretty proud to be part of, again, a female leadership in terms of winemaking. But Donine, back in the 90s, really, like Brian said, wanted to not have any restriction when making Etoile. So what it means is like having pure freedom of creating every year the best wine you can, because this is a prestige cuvée. This is the icon. So you just don't want to be tied up to any rules. You want to be able to make the best wine from year on year. So one of the reasons how Etoile is a multi-vintage, and unlike a lot of icons or prestige cuvée that you would find in the market, most of those wines are vintages. But when they are vintages, that means you can only choose those base wine from that vintage. How Etoile is different, it's multi-vintage, and it allows us every year to decide whether or not we want to do a vintage. But really the style of Etoile is to have multiple vintage. So it helps with the complexity and building up those layers in the palate or the mouthfeel. So this wine has about 8 or 10 different reserve wine into it. So that's really like the specificity of Etoile, is how we bring so many library wine within the blend. This wine is from the Carneros region, same region than the previous wine, the Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. So the Carneros region is a region that we love. It's one of our biggest property that we own. We grow all variety there, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Meunier. We have about 800 acres of land there. So we are really able for Etoile to select the best lots. We typically start blending Etoile. Those are the first wines that we make. So we can really take the best lot we chose them for their style, because Etoile, it's about elegance, it's about being refined, yet it's about also being powerful. So we always want to get those base wines. And then we tap, like I said, into our reserve wine collections as well. So here at Chandon, we have a reserve wine that are dated from 2007. And in this particular blend, it goes all the way to 2005. 2005 and maybe to some 2003. So this is what makes Etoile so unique, is the blending, because as you know, blending is definitely at the heart of everything we're doing. And the mastery of blending is extremely important for us when we make it well. It is about getting, so Etoile aged for 5 years. So it is about rich flavors, some ginger, some honey, some hazelnuts. Some people will say Marmite or Vegemite, depending on where you used to live or where you come from,
or whether you like those things.
But some cocoa, some chocolate flavors. So all of that is coming from the length of the maturation, how much time is spent aging in the bottle. The dosage on this one is also low. It's 7 for this one, 7 grams per liter. And it's made of 53% Chardonnay, 45% Pinot Noir, and 3% of Meunier. Yes. And I would say that this is a wine that is really fun to make because, like I said, we have lots of leeway to make this wine. It is a carnivorous appellation, but it doesn't have to be. The role is our role is to make the best wine possible and not have to have rules. That is thanks to Donnie Dyer. So I'm so glad she designed this way, and we follow her lead and her tradition.
Yeah, this is a wine that, of course, for longtime fans of Chandon, you'll remember the old restaurant that we used to have here on the winery's property that was called Etoile. Fun fact about that was the wine came before the restaurant. So the restaurant was actually kind of named after the wine itself. That's how much we all like this so much. So it's a wine that, of course, has wine and food tied to it. And I mean, traditional champagne pairings feel like it's where it's at for me. What do you think from a pairing standpoint?
Yeah, it works really well.
Oysters, lobster roll,
caviar,
even cheese, like a beautiful platter of cheese. Yep. Works really well.
Triple cream cheese is always seemed. Yeah. Bill in the Q&A, Bill said, "Great with Dungeness crab." Well played, Bill. Yeah. That is a perfect pairing for that. So I even have seen this actually do relatively well with sort of lightly sweet desserts, like an apple tart or creme brulee kind of thing. Can actually work with that, which Brut sparkling wine you might not normally think would work that way. So
that's true.
I think, do you have any questions about Etoile Brut? The chat got pretty quiet. Somebody asked what happened to the restaurant. Well, the restaurant went away, but that'll be a teaser for something that we're going to talk about at the end.
At the end, yeah, because the restaurant did not go away. We're going to talk to you about all the experiences that we're doing at the winery, which include a huge amount of food and wine pairings. Yes. And we have a special experience which is called the Epicurean, which we'll talk to you at the end. Yes. So stay tuned.
So stay around for that. I don't see any other questions about Etoile Brut or about Reserve Pinot Noir Rosé. Question about, are all of the grapes grown in and around Napa? I mean, depends on how much you want to expand on that. That could be a very long answer, but
no, I can do it.
Pretty much yes.
So we have 3 vineyards, Yountville, Carneros, and Montveater. Those are our own grapes, but we also have long relationship with growers. And for our signature tier, so the Brut Rosé, Blanc de Pinot Noir, we source fruit from all over Northern California to try to find like the coolest region of Northern California. So we go a little bit outside of Napa, California for those wines. The second part of the question was if we got impacted with the fire in 2020. No, we didn't. We were lucky in the sense that we finished harvest before the fire started. So we are one of the lucky ones. Sparkling is early in the season. So we harvest our fruit in August. So we were done by the fire started. However, we all, most of us live in Napa, so of course we are impacted somewhat, but not the winery nor our vineyards.
Yes. Another question just popped up, which is not a question for me because, well, I'm not a winemaker. But the question is, what drew you to being a sparkling winemaker over making still wines? I think, Pauline, for you, that was probably location geographically probably landed you in that, but I'm curious to hear your answer as well, Laura.
Yeah. All right. I start, actually, it happened the opposite way for me. I studied in Bordeaux, so I started making still wine. And well, I loved sparkling wine to start with, but it's definitely the complexity of the process itself and the fact that it's always, something always happens. Whereas with still winemaking, you have low time and busy time, but it's definitely that, and how much the details impact the process and the quality. Pauline looks at me, she's like, yeah, I remember that.
Not at all. And then for me, Frances, it's about, I grew up in Champagne. So I think when you grew up in Champagne, you are surrounded by it. So for me, I knew that I wanted to be a winemaker since I was 14 years old. I don't know what I would have done if I couldn't be a winemaker, because I was pretty adamant that's what I wanted to do. And for me, I never envisioned anything else but making sparkling wine. I guess that's because it's in my vein. I don't know. But yes, same answer as Laura. Like for me, what's intriguing about sparkling wine, it's the complexity of it. Like it's so many different nuances, and when we put the wine in the bottle, it's just a start for us. When typically still wine, that's the end of the process, as we still need to ferment it again, see it age and mature in the bottle. We redo it, we disgorge it. So we get to see the wine twice when you put it in the bottle and when you disgorge it. So it's a lot more processes, a lot more steps, a lot more complexity. I find that it's also much more precise because it's always about that perfect balance. So for me, that's the precision, the elegance, and the fact that it's a product that it's delicate. But most of it all, I think it's also a fun product. Like people open it. We've talked about the pop of the bottle. Just that, it puts everyone in the mood. When you drink sparkling wine, typically it's because you want to celebrate something, or you don't have to celebrate something. But I feel like it's the joy that this product bring. And I'm pretty proud of that, to try to bring joy to all of your life. I hope we succeed to do that.
I think
I'm
it
sure we do.
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think from what I see traveling around in the market, it's everybody's having a very good time while they're enjoying Chandon. To be fair, I am not a winemaker because I made some sparkling wine in school and it was terrible. So,
but another thing as well is, like Laura and I, the whole team, we also make still wines. So we get to do both. Majority of everything we're crafting or sparkling wine, but we do make some still wine at Chandon as well. So we still know how to do it. We're still excited about making our still wine, but I definitely love sparkling a little bit better. But we do craft Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Meunier, and Cabernet. So we are sparkling and still winemakers.
Yes. And of course, now we have to move on, in the interest of time, to the most exciting and most interesting thing, which is going to be Laura's time to shine, to talk about the Garden Spritz tea. However, before we get into sort of the deep details of Spritz tea and exactly how you came up with the idea and how the wine is made, I want to talk a little bit about innovation, because it's always something that from day one here in California and for the entire global sort of world of Chandon, the 6 wineries that we have around the world, it's such an important part of what we do, not being constrained by the sort of traditional rules from the place that you come from, let's be honest, and being able to be free to try things and do things that are completely different, which from the winemaking side must be incredibly fun. It has to be cool to have that freedom.
Yep. So, innovation has always been part of our DNA. Like, we have that pioneering freedom that is very important to us. And we are always encouraged to try new things, to think differently. And I think that's what I love the most about Chandon is that ability to play. Laura is going to be too shy to tell you, so I'm going to say it. She's the one behind that product. She designed it. So she brought up the idea, the concept. We obviously discussed it together, but and then we say, like, let's go for it. Let's try something new. As you know, we are also like the leader in that category, in the super premium category. So I feel it's also our due to come up with those innovation and lead the category and bring some fun wines. And we talk about fun and having fun at work. And I think innovation is also one way to do it. So we get to fail. Don't get us wrong, because sometimes we try something that we think it could work, but it doesn't. Those failures, don't worry, you don't see them. We keep it in the lab, but it is actually fun to try different things. And then there you go, Laura. Like, tell us a little bit about tea and maybe what you do for the winery.
Yeah, maybe I should start with that. Usually people ask me my favorite part about working at Chandon, and it's definitely the freedom we have. to try new things. And that's a very good example of it. So what do I do at the winery? Well, I work with Pauline, but mostly my part is on innovation. So new product development and innovation in the bigger sense, which is new equipment, new processes. But when it comes to product, we also wanted to try something a little different. So maybe I should tell you a little about the inspiration behind this product. Quite frankly, it's my love for tea. And I have the tendency when I like something to go very deep into it. And so as maybe some of you, I used to drink tea quite a bit, and I started learning more and more about tea. And what really stuck with me was how many similarities you have between wine and tea. So they both start with a plant. You cultivate a plant, but the expression of the plant, and it's the same for grapes, it's the same for tea, will be completely different depending where it's grown. So that's the first step. Harvesting time, it's also very important for both tea and grapes. And of course, what you make with it. So there is a big part that's linked to the process, and you have a lot of similarities in the process as well. We use oxidation in winemaking, we use fermentation, and so it's the case with tea. So it started that way. Then if you want to get a little bit more into details, from a chemical standpoint, they're also very similar. You find antioxidant in both. It's quite fascinating to see. And even when you have old teas and the way they evolved and wine, it's completely fascinating. I think you got that part. So why tea and how we come up as a team? It's not just me. We definitely worked all together on it. Everybody enjoy a cup of Earl Grey tea. I think it's a staple in every house. And for us, it was very special. So that's how we came up with this idea. We also find that the flavors of the Earl Grey tea and the blend complements beautifully the wine. So that's a route we took, and that's the expression we chose.
So it's really about combining, the tea with the exceptional sparkling wine that we craft, and really trying to showcase the best of those two worlds. And like Laura said, those worlds are so similar, and we find they are actually quite complementary as well.
And I have to tip my cap to you in that regard, because I love tea, and I also obviously love sparkling wine, and I had never really considered how similar tea and wine are, based on where you grow them, based on how you make your actual cup of tea, based on cultural differences, the way that the vessel that it's served in can make a huge difference. So that's very cool that not only that you thought of that, but also thought of a way to make a wine out of that, and then had somebody who would actually greenlight it and say, hey, let's do this, even though it's probably something that's never been done before.
Exactly.
Anywhere.
So now you get to have a tea party with some alcohol in it.
Yes.
So,
that's the kind of tea party I'm about.
And you can start in the morning.
Yes.
So something we should add, which is very important, I think, in the making of this product, is what we love doing as sparkling winemakers is blending. And so we applied the same philosophy. So we sourced, it took quite a long time. We sourced exactly the type of teas we wanted, and we made our blend in-house to fit perfectly the style of the wine. So.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I mean, the majority of the bottle is an exceptional sparkling wine on its own, which is, of course, the wine that we were speaking about earlier, the flagship Chandon Brut. So using a great base wine probably matters quite a lot.
Yeah.
But doing all of that process in-house has to be an essential part of the process.
And I think it was important for us that when you smell the wine, then you get the tea. So it was very, very, very important. You get it on the nose, but you get it also on the palate. And we wanted to obviously have something that was well balanced and refined. This one is actually quite floral as well. So there is a lot of bergamot notes as well. So yeah, we certainly hope you like it. There's a little bit of sweetness into this wine, but balanced as well.
Yeah, I think probably one of the most important things about serving this, I know people have had the Chandon Garden Spritz, which is the sort of orange liqueur flavor sparkling wine that we have in the Chandon range. So it's in the same sort of realm, but that wine is designed to be served over ice. Garden Spritz tea is designed to not be served over ice, correct?
Yeah. But be very chilled.
Yes.
And usually if you have attended a couple virtual tasting, you would have seen Brian complaining about the temperature of the sparkling wine when it's served at a restaurant. For this one, you can chill it, and you should chill it really well.
Really well, yeah.
And something cool too that we did on this wine actually is that we have this little QR code that's on the necker, and that allows you to scan that with your phone and then go to a web page and find all kinds of different things about it. So,
and then also because it's part of innovation, like the label, and maybe we can show it. It's a lab label, so it is part of a innovation. Let's see how hot that is.
Close. I don't know if that'll show, but in the light. So yeah, it's got a few things on it that no other Chandon labels have. It's got a blend number, and
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Sorry for that.
that's okay.
But yes, definitely the QR code is also for you to leave us comments. So there is a little survey that Laura's done with her new product development team. And we want to hear from you. We want to know if you like it, if you don't like it, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the beginning of a series. And you should get another one that's a teaser. You'll get another one next year.
Yes. So Eleanor asked the question: Did you or will you consider trying Lady Grey tea, more jasmine flavor, etc.? My standard comment on this is I will not comment on future or potential products, but anything can happen.
To answer your question for this specific variation of it, yes, we did. It's actually Lady Grey tea is lavender, not jasmine, if I can correct you. But you said something that really resonated with me just before. You were talking about trying this product after a rugby game. And I'm from the south of France, and we had a pretty big moment last week because Toulouse is literally the town of rugby, and we brought home the cup. I don't know if you follow rugby, but it was a very big moment.
One person is celebrating. Everyone else doesn't know what you're talking about. Including me, to be fair.
Including me, and I'm
Yes.
French as well, so you know.
So important question, and this one's definitely directly for you, Laura, which is, was the dried tea just added? Please explain the process. So how did the process of making the tea ingredient to Garden Spritz tea actually, what did you do to do that?
So Pauline was telling you before about the process itself, and the last step of the process of making sparkling wine in the traditional method is the dosage. So it's the liquor that we add at disgorging. So no, we didn't add dry tea straight to it. We actually made the blend of tea and brew it, and that's what we add at disgorging. And the base is our Brut because it fits beautifully the flavors.
So it's a tea infused liquor that we added at disgorging.
Yes, which is someone's commenting on rugby things in the chat. It's going to get out of control. Question about food pairing, which is actually a very interesting one for this, because as I mentioned, nobody's ever done this before. It's not like there was something you could sort of base it off as a template. So for me, anything that's got a little bit of spice, anything that's very savory, I think works quite well. I really like ramen with it. Indian food is quite good with it. Creme Brulee, I mentioned creme brulee for Etoile as well. I think somebody was making an Earl Grey creme brulee, and they were going to pair it with Garden Spritz tea.
So me, obviously, I picture like, you know, the tray that you get like with
the sandwiches.
Yeah, the tower, and you
Yeah,
have
for
to have like the
afternoon tea.
cucumber sandwiches.
Yep.
That's because that's what a tea party is about, right?
Yeah, and of course, I mean, where you're from, duck, always a
Yeah.
very important thing. And
Other
quite well
rugby
too.
fans,
Oh,
just to
other-
prove you wrong.
Well, okay,
There
we
we
got
go.
two.
Thank you.
Very good. So, do you see any other questions in there? I don't think I saw anything that was too questiony. Actually, one last question about
Yes.
this, which was asked much earlier by Lori. Is there caffeine in Garden Spritz tea?
Yes, it's a very good question. Yes, it's about 20 milligrams in it per glass.
So that's sort of equivalent to like a small cup of green tea-ish?
No, much less.
Much
Less?
less.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not really into tea, turns out. So one last thing, I think, as we teased this a little bit, I hope everyone is enjoying the Garden Spritz tea. And let's see, will you receive it in your shipment?
Yes.
Yes, you will receive Garden Spritz tea in your shipment. It is a club exclusive wine. But I wanted to talk a little bit about hospitality, because obviously we're all here together in the same room, which is not something that's ever happened in the 2 years that we've been doing these virtual tastings. It's very cool to get back together with everybody and see everybody. And of course, that extends to our hospitality team, which we're back open for hospitality. We're doing a whole bunch of different experiences that we haven't done before. I started here at the winery in hospitality, and what we're doing now is very different than what I was doing in 2010.
Yeah.
So really, really different. Very high elevation experiences, stuff that is wonderful in terms of the style of it, in terms of the way that you're being hosted. Everything by reservation now. That's always something that I'm reminding people, is that in the old days, you could just come to the winery, walk in and do a tasting, but we're encouraging everybody to make reservations in advance. But the real big thing, we teased this a little bit earlier, is something called the Epicurean Experience, which Pauline, I know you're very heavily involved in. Has a little bit of a throwback to the old restaurant days. Yeah. So what's the Epicurean Experience? What does it entail?
So for me, the Epicurean is the ultimate experience that we're offering. So this one is it's a 5-course meal. You can enjoy this. So I think you need to actually book it in advance. I'm not entirely sure, but it's better that you book in advance. And it doesn't need to be for lunch. You can do it whenever you want during the day. So 5-course meal with 5 different wine pairing. Of course, I've got the hard task to actually judge this every month. So the menu changes every month. And I get to do the food and wine pairing with Chef Juan and also Owen, her house sommelier. So I can tell you that the Epicurean is actually delicious every single month, but I get to critique. So yeah, this is pretty nice. So it's typically 4 courses that are savory, and we have 1 dessert. We also have a pastry chef. His name is Sebastian. He's extremely talented as well, and he always come up with the best dessert. So whether you like sweet or salty, you'll find what you love. It's really the best experience that we have, and it's really fun. Then you can do the lighter version of that, and with bubbles and bites. But I encourage you to go on the website and search for experiences that we are doing. We have cabanas, we have picnics on the lawn. So a lot of cool things that's happening. But if you haven't visited us for a while, definitely it's different. So make sure you reserve ahead of time.
Yes, all that to say, come see us, come say hi. It's a good excuse to come out and visit us in the Napa Valley. Shout out to our Chandon team who put the reservation link and menu into the chat. So if you're coming here to Napa, you will have all of the information that you need. Dare I say, that new Epicurean experience might be better than the restaurant when we used to have the restaurant here. So it's very high end.
It is high end.
It is very high end. So definitely come and see what we got going on here. Chef Juan is doing just phenomenal things in the kitchen. So I don't see anything else in the chat that looks too crazy or needs an answer. Somebody said, thank you for doing this virtual tasting. No, thank you for attending. I think we all love this. It's always fun to be able to interact with everybody. I think maybe the next one we might try to do it live, actually.
Yeah. So
we'll see if we can end up pulling that off. I see one last question, which is my very favorite question to answer, which is, what is the best time to visit Napa? Anytime is the answer. Of course, my little secret time is sort of the middle of February, when everything's nice and quiet, mustard all over the vineyards. You have all the flowers out, and weather is pretty good here. And in February, it's not very good in most places. So good time to come out. Anne says she's coming to see us on Sunday. Excellent. All right. Welcome, and we will see you on Sunday. So I think with that, we will wrap up the spring edition of the virtual tasting series.
Cannot believe it. It's been 2 years.
I know, 2 years of doing this. That is, it's always fun to interact with everybody and say hello to everyone. I somewhere back here had to give a shout out to my friends, the DeWar family, because they're drinking a little bit up in Idaho. I want to say hi to them. So a reminder, of course, we're going to keep doing this. So definitely don't think that this is the last one, even though it's our 2-year anniversary. And of course, thank you to all of our Club Chandon members who are joining us. We always thank you. You are our favorite wine drinkers. So thank you all very much for joining. And of course, more than anything, thank you to you, Pauline, and thank you to you, Laura, for giving us all the winemaking expertise directly from the source.
All right. Well, thank you so much for attending, and don't hesitate to come and visit us, because we'd love to hear from you. Our job, Laura and I, is to craft wine for you guys. So we always want to hear from you.
Yes. And in the meantime, hop on Chandon.com and scoop up all of the wonderful things that they're crafting in the winery. And we will see you out here in Napa. So I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on the next virtual tasting.
All
So,
right. Happy weekend, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
bye, everyone.